And a very happy afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Tim Burgess back with Think and Grow Rich, and over 26 years of everyday study in this book. And I know we've gone through Decision Part 1 and Decision Part 2, and we talked about, how it is so important for us to make a quick, firm, definite decision. Not a hasty decision without all of the information we need. However, don't get in a black hole and stay there digging for information when you already have enough to make a decision. And then we discussed the story of the Declaration of Independence in the United States and how the United States gained its freedom from Great Britain, and how the firmness of decision, the quickness of decision, and not a conditional decision, but a committed decision, the commitment behind the decisions really led us to the freedom that we now enjoy in the United States, and many other countries have certainly adopted those principles and philosophies. But now, as we wrap up this chapter, he goes into some information that is so important and it's so powerful that I just want to share it with you. You may find at times in this video that it seems like I'm reading to you. That's because I am. But we'll stop and we'll talk about it in a few places. He talks about the power that gave this nation its freedom is the same power that must be used by every individual who becomes self-determining. Now, what does this thing called self-determining even mean? Think about that for a minute. Self-determining. He says this power is made up of the principles described in this book. It will not be difficult to detect in the story of the Declaration of Independence at least 6 of these principles. 6. Desire, decision, faith, persistence, the mastermind, and organized planning. Now, here's something that just blew my mind when I stopped and I thought about it. This book has more than 6 principles. Are you telling me that only 6 principles were needed to pull off something as large as the Declaration of Independence in this country, the United States, gaining its freedom? Only 6? And then I reminded myself in the very beginning of the book, in the introduction, in the author's introduction and the publisher's preface, they talk about how the majority of the wealthy people that Napoleon Hill interviewed for the creation of the organization of this philosophy, the majority of them had only really implemented and really mastered maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 of these principles. They didn't have all of them. And as I read this, it made me realize I don't have to be a master at everything in this book to accumulate the riches I desire financially and materialistically, but more importantly, much more importantly, to live the life that I truly desire. He says throughout this philosophy will be found the suggestion that thought, backed by strong desire, has a tendency to transmit itself into its physical equivalent. Transmutation. Thoughts become things. He says, before passing on, I wish to leave you with the suggestion that one may find in this story and in the story of the organization of the United States Steel Corporation a perfect description of the method by which thought makes this astounding transformation. In your search for the secret of the method, which we're all looking for, this secret pill, this magic pill, it's got to be in here somewhere, right? He says, do not look for a miracle because you will not find one. You will find only the eternal laws of nature. These laws are available to every person who has the faith and the courage to use them. They may be used to bring freedom to a nation or to accumulate riches. He says there is no charge save the time necessary to understand and appropriate them. He says those who reach decisions promptly and definitely know what they want and generally get it. The leaders in every walk of life. The leaders in every walk of life? every walk of life decide quickly and firmly. That's the major reason why they're leaders. They don't waffle, they don't waver, they don't blow this way one day and this way the next. They're not very much of a leader if they do that. I mean, think about it. Do you want to follow somebody like that? I don't want to follow somebody like that. I want to follow somebody who's definite. Definite. Indecision is a habit which usually begins in youth. The habit takes on permanency as the youth goes through graded school, high school, and even through college without definiteness of purpose. By the way, what is your definite major purpose in this game we call life? He says the major weakness of all educational systems is that they neither teach nor encourage the habit of definite decision. We have a young grandson. He'll be 7 years old. And we're teaching him now the habit of quick, firm, definite decisions. And once he makes that decision, we don't change our mind. He made a decision to have this snack. And then he find out we had these others. And oh my gosh, you already made a decision. And now let's be grateful for the decision we made and what we get to enjoy. We're teaching him that. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. But it seems to me to be right. Instead of being like a leaf on a tree in a windstorm, blowing whichever way the wind blows, how about if we make a quick, firm, definite decision and we know where we're going? Isn't that who you would want to follow? Absolutely. He says it would be beneficial if no college would permit the enrollment of any student unless and until the student declared his major purpose. What's the major purpose of going to college? Instead of, well, it's 4 more years, mom and dad can pay the bills for me, or nowadays it's just 4 more years, who cares who pays the damn bills? I don't know where we ended up with this mentality, ladies and gentlemen, but let's think about it. It's not right. He says the habit of indecision acquired because of the deficiencies of our school system goes with the student into the occupation he chooses if, in fact, he chooses the occupation. He found generally the youth just out of school seeks any job they can get, takes the first one they can find because they've fallen into the habit of indecision. We call it now the habit of drifting. Just kind of drift through life. Oh, I'm not drifting, Tim. I'm on purpose. Okay, what's your purpose? And oh, backed by that purpose, what's your definite major chief aim? And then what's your short-term goal so you can reach the definite chief aim as you live your definite major purpose? Can you answer those? Most cannot. They're not even close. He says, 98 out of every 100 people working for wages today are in the positions they hold because they lack the definiteness of decision to plan a definite position and the knowledge of how to choose an employer. Think about that. Choose an employer. Now, I know it was written in 1937, but doesn't it seem like we don't know how to choose an employer today? That's why people work here for a little while, then they work over here for a little while, then they work over here for a little while. There's no real commitment. There's no real committed decision. I was in the real estate industry as a real estate agent for, 13, 14 years. Many of you know that. And the majority of all real estate agents have no ability to make a quick, firm, definite decision. I'm very grateful that I didn't get into that industry until I had 3.5 years of studying this under my belt. And when I applied this to that industry, we set all sorts of records, but that doesn't matter. Who cares? He says definiteness of decision always requires courage, sometimes very great courage. The 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence stake their lives on the decision to affix their signatures to that document. Would you be willing to sign that document today? If you had no freedom, people are taxing you. Well, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, that is what's happening today. The person who reaches a definite decision to procure the particular job and make life pay the price they ask does not stake his life on that decision. He stakes their economic freedom on that decision. Financial independence, riches, desirable business, and professional positions are not within the reach of the person who neglects or refuses to expect, plan, and demand these things. Have you expected? Have you planned and have you demanded these things? That's a decision. The person who desires riches in the same spirit that Samuel Adams desired freedom for the colonies is sure to accumulate a lot of money. He says accumulate wealth. Wealth has 12 different pieces of it. And oh, by the way, money in and of itself, it's number 12. He says in the chapter on organized planning, you will find complete instructions for marketing every type of personal services. We went through that, remember? Hopefully you studied it beyond just the videos. You will find also detailed information on how to choose the employer you prefer. He went through the brief and how to create the brief. And these instructions will be of no value to you unless you definitely decide to organize them into a plan of action. So this thing called decision, have you just kind of blown over it like it's not that big a deal really? Have you become consciously aware of the decisions you're making? I was distracted all over the place this morning. I'm going to be honest with you, I'll tell on myself. All over the place. And it wasn't until I made the firm decision, no more distractions, I'm doing this video, then we can get the video done. But until then, we can't get the video done because we haven't made the firm, committed, definite decision to do it. It was a conditional decision. You know, I'm going to do this video today. But wait a minute, man. Inside of me, it was kind of like if all the stars line up right, if the sun's shining, if there's not too many clouds. Not literal. But that's kind of where I was, and this distraction set in, and this distraction set in, and then this one comes, and this one comes. Next thing you know, I'm not even looking at this. I'm all running around handling distractions. And then it was stop. Realize what was going on. Quick, firm, definite decision. And within 5 minutes, I had removed all of the distractions. And here we are sharing some time together. I still have a long way to go. I still have a lot to learn. Just because I've been reading this book every day now for over 26 years doesn't mean I've mastered all of it. I can recite most of it, but I'm still working to get better at it. And anybody who doesn't absolutely believe the same thing, regardless of how long they have studied anything, they've lost control of the reasoning faculty of their mind. It matters not how long we study anything, because we change. The book doesn't change. This book has never changed. The words on these pages have never changed. They've been the same. I've changed all the time. And because of that change, I've attracted somebody like Joe into my life, who's certainly inspirational in all that he has accomplished by following these principles and applying them in his daily life. And I want to thank Joe, because if it were not for Joe, for the pushing, the prodding, and the reminding of the principles with me as we study this material together, we probably wouldn't be here. So I want to thank Joe, and everyone on the line, you should thank him too. And by the way, push the subscribe button, because the next chapter is one you don't want to miss. You don't want to mix the chapter on persistence, because most people confuse persistence with being stubborn, and they're not the same thing. Remember this. Stubborn is stupid. Persistence is profitable. And Joe, once again, thank you. As always, one of our greatest desires is that this day be the greatest day you've ever experienced in this game we call life. Yesterday doesn't matter. It's ancient history. Tomorrow isn't here. Can't do anything about it. However, today, we can make a decision to be happy, number one, regardless of what goes on. Make a decision to apply ourselves, to move forward in our life. And that's up to us. So allow this day to be the very best day you've ever experienced in this game we call life. And may God bless each and every one of you. Have a fabulous day.